Keith and Katie with you, and this is From the Bomb Shelter. And
hello, good
things
morning.
are not good. We're going to do something different here. We're going to, obviously, if you're listening to this, it's Sunday. We're going to have a special show on Monday with Jillian Ratliff, the cybersecurity expert that we've had on before to talk about the Signal incident. And so be sure that you're aware that we're going to be, we'll split up some of these longer shows into two and give you something to listen in the middle of the week. And of course, as events warrant, we'll have other news if it happens. All right. How you doing today, Katie?
Oh, you know.
Laughs
maniacally. They just kidnapped an international student from the University of Minnesota.
Right, I saw that. I knew you were going to talk about that.
That's just, obviously all of it is horrifying, but the fact that it feels like so Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey just did a press conference like last week saying that Minneapolis will remain a sanctuary city and that they're not going to cooperate with ICE. And so it feels like this was like retribution for that.
Yeah, the chief thug, Tom Homan, is specifically targeting areas of the country that have been defiant. The woman that was
happening in
Boston.
States.
Boston had said bring it on. And so he sees the ones. We'll talk about her too. Let's set the table here. Most people know about the Venezuelans that were taken. About 250 Venezuelans were taken.
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
Yeah.
But we've gotten more information, obviously, since then.
Yeah. Do you want to go to the CBS News video?
Yeah, I thought it did a nice job. So she starts out talking about one of the Venezuelans that was kidnapped, and she's actually interviewing his wife, his wife is 9 months pregnant.
Video posted on social media that 22-year-old Nice said she figured out her partner, Henry Albornoz Quintero, was at Secot, a dangerous maximum security prison in El Salvador.
How did you feel seeing him in those conditions?
Destrozada.
You were devastated?
Sí.
Nice is 9 months pregnant and now alone.
Yo sé que él no va a estar presente.
He's not going to be there when his child is born.
Albornoz Quintero crossed the southern border in December of 2023. He was detained in January during a routine check-in with ICE.
Why did they detain him? What did they say? ¿Qué les dijeron?
Él no sabía el por qué lo detienen.
He didn't know why he was detained.
Nunca nos dijeron.
They never told you.
U.S. federal officials say the more than 230 Venezuelans deported to Secot on March 15th are all part of a criminal gang called Tren de Aragua, known as TDA.
Did he have any interaction with any gang?
No, nada.
But Albornoz Quintero's attorney says the 29-year-old has no criminal record, and the government hasn't shared evidence to show he's a gang member.
In fact, every one of them a member of TDA.
Have you seen that evidence?
I have not drilled down every file. I'm trusting the men and women who do this for a living. I'm not aware of any mistakes at all, but I can tell you this, not every gang member has a criminal record.
Why not allow them a due process, as anybody would have if they're accused of a crime in the U.S.?
Due process for a terrorist under Alien Enemies Act?
But how do you know that they're terrorists?
Alien Enemies Act is clear. They don't have the due process rights of every illegal alien in this country. They were removed under Alien Enemies Act.
The Trump administration's use of that Alien Enemies Act, an 18th century wartime authority, is currently blocked by a federal judge. But in an overnight filing, the DOJ argued the order to deport those Venezuelans was not in defiance of the judge, as once the planes were outside the U.S. airspace, they became a, quote, military matter, and its sole authority sits with the President of the United States as Commander-in-Chief.
It was...
I love this comment.
Was that Tom Homan?
Yeah.
Was that who she was talking to?
She was talking to him, I know.
Ugh, what a gross garbage person.
Yeah. I hate, the only thing I really hate about these clips, this was from CBS Mornings, are the comments in the side panel. Just full of Russian bots and just a lot of really awful people.
And the actual members of the cult in the US.
Yeah.
Who truly think I mean, here's the deal. Well, so we were going to talk about another Venezuelan who, as far as we know, is not associated with the gang they're talking about, no criminal record. I mean, we don't, like he said, and he admitted, he did not look at the files of these people. They didn't get due process. So there isn't information available about this. But also, they're deporting Venezuelans to a prison in El Salvador. Like that itself, that's not deporting people. That's putting people in concentration camps.
No,
like,
it is. It's an absolute concentration camp with everything that the word implies.
That is terrorism. That is a war crime. They did this also to Neri Alvarado Borges. And so what people have started to piece together after the fact here is that basically ICE was given a quota. You have to round up this many Venezuelan immigrants.
Right.
And so what they did was they just found Venezuelan immigrants with tattoos because that would be easier to make them look like gang members. And then, of course, we've all seen the footage of them shaving their heads. So basically, Neri Alvarado has an autism awareness tattoo for his younger brother, who is autistic. That's
the only tattoo I was ever thinking of getting, by the way, because I have a son with autism.
Yeah, it's not. It's like the opposite of a gang symbol. And according to Mother Jones, Neri's boss, actually, who is Venezuelan, did get to visit him in detention before he was deported. And Neri told his boss, there are 90 of us here. We all have tattoos. We were all detained for the same reasons. And then he also told his boss that the ICE agent asked Neri about his tattoos and for permission to review his phone for any evidence of gang activity. And that after he did that, the ICE officer told Neri that he was clean, that he would be, filed as not having anything to do with Tren de Aragua. And then for whatever reason, because they needed to meet their quota, they kept him and they sent him to El Salvador.
This is all basically to make Trump happy with the numbers. That's it. It kind of reminds me of the body counts in the Vietnam War. Make McNamara happy with how many people we kill.
They just want propaganda.
Oh yeah, that's all.
So they obviously they made this big production of shaving their heads and making them do the perp walk, and like whoever was doing all of this for the DOJ had like masks on. The whole thing is just like,
well, it's fascism.
So fucking it just reeks of.
If you have to shred the Constitution to get your numbers up, well, then they're quite, Homan and his gang is quite willing to do it. The thing that I'm worried about is if they're just looking at tattoos for some of these guys, and we always, like on this show, we try and extrapolate things into what might happen in the future. You get these goons on the street start harassing people for their tattoos,
for anything,
for their colored hair, for their piercings.
If you're not going to give people due process, and that's the thing is like they're saying, oh no, they were bad people, they were gang members, and even if they don't have a criminal record, not all gang members have a criminal record. I mean, even if they were gang members, this is not humane treatment. Like this does go against the Constitution. It's the whole cruel and unusual punishment thing. But what you heard Homan say in that video was, oh, due process under the Alien Enemies Act? Why would we give them that? Well, for people who don't know, and she did mention that it's a wartime act from the 18th century. But I actually pulled a little more information from the Brennan Center for Justice. You can stop sharing your screen if you want. From the Brennan Center for Justice, because their whole argument just falls apart as soon as you start to pick at it. So the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 is a wartime authority that allows the president to detain or deport the natives and citizens of an enemy nation. The law permits the president to target these immigrants without a hearing and based only on the country of birth or citizenship. So this is why he signed that executive order reenacting the Alien Enemies Act, which was also used to put Japanese Americans in internment camps during World War II.
And I would point out,
we know that they were innocent. They were just Americans, like literally American citizens.
Well, most Americans don't know is there were 5 German spies that landed on the east coast of America, and they were all rounded up fairly quickly, and they were given due process.
Yeah.
Japanese, of course, were not because they were Asian, and the Germans were white. So they got the, all our law has always been basically employed this way.
So, and this is, exactly. This is not new for people who are like, don't know their history and are, so, I mean, yes, be horrified, but also realize like the US was not just the good guys in World War II either. Like that's what we're taught, but we did horrific things during World War II to our own citizens.
And remember we turned away that giant ship that was full of Jewish people.
Oh, and then it sunk. A German submarine sunk it.
Oh, I thought they all went back and went to concentration camps. Maybe I'm thinking of a different ship.
Maybe. I know a German sub sank at least one ship that we said, no, you can't, of Jewish refugees that we said couldn't come. But, with reference to this being a wartime law, too, that they're enacting when we have not, we're not in a war with Venezuela.
Nope.
And, of course, Trump, in all his rhetoric, says that we're at war. And so this is actually from his joint address to Congress in January. This is a quote: "The cartels are waging war in America, and it's time for America to wage war on the cartels, which we are doing." So, this is supposed to be their justification for using the Alien Enemies Act.
But the Alien Enemies Act is for a formal declaration of war. We haven't declared war against Mexico. Cartels are not a state. But I think...
I mean, these are not even Mexicans. They're Venezuelans.
And I think what will happen eventually is, I know Trump and his goons were talking about basically attacking the cartels inside of Mexico. Bombing them from the air, dropping airborne troops and all this. I mean...
yeah. Well, meanwhile, you know where they get most of their guns, right?
Yeah, us.
From us. It is all smoke and mirrors. It is. So then people probably saw too, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem,
puppy killer,
the puppy killer, went to the prison camp in El Salvador where these Venezuelans were quote unquote deported to. And stood in front of prisoners who were stripped down to their underwear with shaved heads. Now, of course, we have no idea who these prisoners are. I don't think that they're the Venezuelans that we deported. They could be actual Trinidad.
They were props.
Gang members.
In essence, they were just props.
They obviously picked the toughest looking ones with the most tattoos to put behind her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's standing in front of them talking about, this is what we'll do to you if you come to our country illegally and you should leave now and whatever. And so then so she posted that on X.
Yeah. Nice hair extensions, by the way, and that $60,000 Rolex she was wearing.
Doesn't she look pretty?
Oh,
and
my heavens.
Jillian, who we're going to talk to a little
later.
Ava
Braun. Go ahead.
Yeah. I know. Well, that's the thing. She obviously spent a lot of time to look pretty before she committed this war crime, which we're going to talk about in a second.
Yeah.
Jillian Ratliff and I were talking about this, and she was like, now, which one is this? And I was like, I don't know, because they all have the same plastic surgery to look the same, to fit what their cult says.
They call it prototype Mar-a-Lago face.
Mm-hmm. Literally. And so we didn't even know right away that it was Kristi Noem. And then, we ended up saying, well, they're just all interchangeable Nazi bitches because you can't even tell them apart. But so then after this, retired U.S. Navy Vice Admiral Michael Franken, who is the former director of defense. He was a POW. He was missing in action. Secretary of the Defense for the POW Missing in Action Accounting Agency. I'm sorry.
Right.
Who served not only under Obama, but under Trump as well, then responded to Kristi Noem's video on X and said, this is a violation under the 4th Geneva Convention to pose with prisoners.
We don't need
And then
no stinking Geneva Convention.
Yeah,
I mean,
which if we're supposedly the good guys from World War II, then we should be following the Geneva Convention, right? Which, so then the response from Trump supporters was, well, we're not at war, so we don't have to follow the Geneva Convention.
Wait,
well, which one is it?
I thought we were at war with these people.
You can't have it both ways. If you're going to deport them to a foreign prison under the Alien Enemies Act, which is a wartime authority, even though we are not at war, then we're going to hold you to wartime standards.
Does the law mean anything anymore?
Also, Vice Admiral Franken responded to that and said the first 3 Geneva Conventions dealt with combatants. The 4th was civilian prisoners. They are either combatants in MAGA minds or civilians without due process. Which one is it? You can't have it both ways.
Well, but the Trump administration basically doesn't. Well, they're going to have it both ways, and they're basically telling the courts and everyone else, what are you going to do to stop us?
Yeah.
And I know
because then she mentioned that in the CBS video too, that the federal judge blocked them from deporting these very Venezuelans to El Salvador, said you can't use the Alien Enemies Act to do that. And they said, oops, the planes already took off and now they're out of U.S. airspace. So, oops, we can't.
That doesn't, yeah, that should not have mattered.
And we don't even know what the timing was. The planes very well could have taken off after the judge made the ruling because, as far as I know, they have still refused to release that information. They said, we can tell you when the planes landed, but we can't tell you when they took off.
They're stonewalling the judge right now.
They're literally defying a federal court order.
One of many.
That, like, the Constitution is no longer in effect. We might as well be in wartime. We might as well. I mean, we're effectively under martial law without him ever having declared it.
I think the war is on the American people, or the war is on the Constitution, because, like I said before, what law does the Trump administration pay any respect to anymore? You know, but
well, and then Timothy Snyder, who we quote a lot on this show,
we do,
the former Yale law professor who has apparently fled to Canada. Did you hear that?
Yes, I did. He wasn't the only one that fled to Canada too, but the brain drain is accelerating.
Yeah, he accepted a position at the University of Ontario, I believe, or
was it Toronto? University of Toronto, I believe. Yeah, nice place. Been there.
With regard to this whole situation, he posted on social media, if you accept that non-citizens have no right to due process, which is what Tom Homan was saying in that CBS video. Well, they're not citizens and we're deporting them as terrorists. We don't have to give them due process. He says, you are accepting, this is Timothy Snyder, you are accepting that citizens have no right to due process. All the government has to do is claim that you are not a citizen. Without due process, you have no chance to prove the contrary.
You know, there was a federal judge last week that said, and she got a lot of flack for it, but she was right. She said the Nazis gave their people more due process. I mean, it wasn't much, but they would haul them up in front of a Nazi judge and let them speak, and then they would send them to the concentration camps. But we don't even do that.
I thought she was saying the Nazis were given more due process by the U.S.
Oh, okay.
Like in reference to what you said, that we didn't give due process to the Japanese Americans that we put in internment camps, but we did give due process to the white Nazis.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, in actuality, the Nazis did give, like the plot to assassinate Hitler, they all got trials. They all were brought up. They all were yelled at. They were allowed to say a little thing, and they were sent to
sham trials.
Sham trials, but still, there was some process there.
Right.
And we're not even doing that.
Mm-mm.
And then we have the case of, I'm going to butcher her name, Remesa Ozturk.
Remesa Ozturk?
Yes, you do so well with those. I sound like I'm
Well,
spitting.
It's just from years of trying not to butcher students' names.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, you had it.
But always saying, please correct me if I said it wrong. I don't want to say your name wrong the whole year. Like, your name is important.
Well,
It's
she was the
pronunciation.
student kidnapped from Tufts University. This one really hit like a lightning bolt when we got the video and the audio with the video with that. She was walking down a street in Somerville on a Tuesday night to meet friends to break her Ramadan fast when a man in a dark hoodie and baseball cap crossed the street toward her. So we have the surveillance footage. Everybody, I think, has seen it or should have seen it. He says, "Excuse me, ma'am," his tone disarming. But, yeah, we'll go ahead and share that.
Well, and just to reiterate, I don't know if you said this. So she is on a student, or was on a student visa. I don't know if I'm assuming she's still in the country, at Tufts. So she's here legally, just like Mahmoud,
Yeah.
the one that was abducted
Mahmoud
from
Khalil.
Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
Mahmoud Khalil, yes. Do you see the video link? I can.
Yeah, no, I got it. We're going to play that video here from Instagram.
I don't hear anything. Do you have your sound on? I don't hear anything.
It's recording. I hate listening to this. It is so tragic. Tufts said they had no pre-knowledge of this.
Yeah, because Colombia's admin cooperated.
Yeah. There's 6 of them.
Yeah, they surround her. They go for her phone. They take her backpack off. Now they're putting her in cuffs or zip ties, probably.
Yeah.
One of them says, "We're the police, relax." And like they do, a couple of them pull out badges from under their shirts, but they're either wearing masks or they have like their shirts pulled up to cover their faces.
Yeah, I think we could. This just, as an American, watching this is like a pain stab in the heart. It really is. Just awful. And
then I couldn't hear it, but
trust me, it was recording.
well, no, I was gonna say, so I don't know if the video got cut off before the man off camera said, "You don't look like police. Why are you hiding your faces?"
Yeah,
And they just ignore him.
of course, because they're cowards. I don't know. I mean, just we have a Gestapo now. That's what we have. We have our own Gestapo in America. And what happened was they got her on a plane so fast that they
So
got
she's
her.
gone.
Oh yeah, they within an hour they had her at the airport in Boston, and they took her on a plane to Louisiana. Now she's in that Louisiana hellhole ICE detention facility.
Not okay. So not gone from the U.S.
No, not gone from the U.S., but they had a judge that issued an order telling her to remain in Massachusetts, but they already had her in Louisiana. They're appealing the judge's order, and that is going to continue.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I forgot that the ACLU they filed a petition right away to block them from deporting her. Which,
Right.
I mean, that's something, I guess, but she'd probably be safer. I mean, depending on where they deported her to, I guess, she'd probably be safer in her home country. I mean, yeah. So Rep. Ilhan Omar, who is one of the reps, she's a rep for Minneapolis, a U.S. rep, posted, I think, yesterday. My office received a report that an international graduate student at the University of Minnesota was arrested by ICE officers on Thursday. They contacted ICE to request information about the nature of the arrest. The U of M confirmed they did not have any prior knowledge or involvement. And like ICE isn't
Right.
cooperating.
ICE is
telling
not going to
anyone
talk to the
anything.
universities. They are not. They don't trust the universities. They will not talk to them. They will simply go and seize these people.
Well, and I think, but Colombia knew ahead of time.
Colombia, they have really covered themselves in glory, haven't they?
Well, the interim president of Colombia is stepping down now.
Yes. Yeah.
Good. The rest of the leadership that is complicit in fascism needs to as well.
I know you have connections. You went to school there, and
Yeah,
it's
that's
really
my alma
it's a real
mater. I went
shame.
to grad school at Teachers College, which is a part of Columbia, the education grad school. I am horrified. But at least the U of M didn't cooperate, but that also means they don't know. I mean, I'm sure the U knows who the student is, but
Right.
the reason we found out about Mahmoud Khalil and Rumeysa Öztürk so fast is because there was video of them being taken, and I haven't seen anything like that.
I want to point out one thing with Öztürk, though. The only they have searched and searched, independent observers, for any evidence that she was partaking in protests or Hamas
No,
activities.
she just published an op-ed.
That's it. All
That's all
was
she
was
did.
she lent her name to an op-ed, a very mild op-ed, saying maybe Israel shouldn't be slaughtering all these Palestinian children. It was very mild. It was not anything that was threatening at all. It was a plea. It was literally
Which
a
is-
plea.
Can we talk about that too?
Yeah, go ahead.
They're targeting people who are dissenting about the Israeli and again, most Israelis do not support what Netanyahu's doing. They've had massive protests since the ceasefire was broken. But the whole bullshit thing that Trump said leading up to the election, that he would end the quote unquote war between Israel and Gaza, which it's not a war. It's just genocide. But can we admit now that was bullshit?
Yeah.
He has no interest in stopping the violence or protecting anyone, Palestinians or Israelis.
No. I read.
Innocent Israelis.
I saw something in an op-ed. I don't remember what it was. It basically said 80% of American Jews do not support what's going on in Israel.
Oh yeah.
But there's a hardcore
yeah.
group. There's a hardcore group. Canary Mission
Well, they're
is one of
probably
them.
conservative Jewish
Oh, they're
people.
very,
which
very.
that should be like an oxymoron, because I don't understand how you can support the racism and xenophobia of the right as a Jewish person, but I think it's just proximity to white privilege for them.
No. What these
That
groups
they think they can pass as a white person,
right?
and have be protected.
Yeah.
Which hello,
Yeah. These groups.
no,
Um.
they're Nazis. These are Nazis.
I was going to say, Canary Mission, and you can find them online, and I think it's Beitar US, are groups that scour news reports at campuses looking for people to put on their list. And that's what's going on right now. So they are compiling lists and sharing them with U.S. intelligence agencies. And that's how they're
Of
getting
people
these
who
people. Yeah.
Are speaking against the
People who are
regime.
speaking against that in any way, shape, or form. Also faculty are being put on these lists.
Which is why Timothy Snyder,
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad he left, because that way he can keep speaking out from
Mm-hmm.
relative safety.
It's the
Because
best
if they,
thing he could
you
do
know-
for himself. Absolutely.
Well,
and
not
I don't
just for
blame him.
himself, for all of us,
Yeah.
because if they lock him up, he can't keep helping us navigate this. And he's a Holocaust expert.
Listen to how we're talking. This
I
is
know.
just amazing to me that we are talking about about people fleeing the country. We're talking about arrests, people snatched off the streets. I mean,
It's as bad as we ever imagined it could be. When people were saying you're overreacting, don't call them Nazis, you're cheapening the word.
right, and
Don't
this is
compare
what,
it to that.
if you know who Dino Obadiah is, he was the one who kept saying right after the election, folks, it's going to be worse than you can even imagine. And he said, people called me an alarmist. Says, "No, you calling me alarmist now?"
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
We're never gonna get, well, Nick Fuentes apparently is realizing somewhat the error of his ways.
Yeah,
I mean, not that he's gonna, not be a fascist anymore. He's just embarrassed by the clown show Trump administration.
Yeah, he's really a case. But he's one who he had somebody show up on his doorstep too.
Oh yeah, he got doxxed big time after he said
doxxed.
Your body, our choice. Your body's our choice forever after the election. He got doxxed. I think his house burned down and he was living with his mom, last I heard. His house burned down. Oops.
All right.
Anyway, shed a tear for
no,
Fuentes.
nobody's going to shed a tear for him at all. All right. We have some other news here, don't we?
Yeah, just a couple other
So,
updates.
you know what that means? New signal. All right. Trump is going to cut $11.4 billion in COVID funding from local health departments. Federal health officials say they are cutting that money for state and local public health departments, money that was largely used for COVID-19 testing, virus research, and community health jobs.
Yeah, and their statement, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services statement was, the COVID-19 pandemic is over, and HHS will no longer waste billions of taxpayer dollars responding to a non-existent pandemic that Americans moved on from years ago. Meanwhile, Reuters just reported that the bird flu has spread to sheep now. There have been multiple confirmed cases in the UK. I don't know about in the US yet. We know it's already spread to cats and cows.
It's spreading among mammals, and that's what the most frightening aspect is. It's only a small jump now from jumping human to human transmission.
And every time it spreads to a new species, there's a greater chance that it's going to be able to mutate.
Right, another mutation.
Now, what we're talking about is human-to-human transmission, because we already know that the animals who have it can transmit it to humans, and maybe vice versa.
Cats to humans. We know that. I don't know about the sheep.
Birds to humans, cows to humans, cats to humans.
But this move,
which if you look on the CDC's website, let me just say, I do not believe that there is information about the cat to human transmission. Last I checked, at least there wasn't, even though the CDC did have confirmed evidence of at least 2 cases of that they posted for less than a day and then deleted.
I wouldn't believe a thing on the CDC website anymore, which is sad.
Yeah. And we're going to talk more about where to get reliable information.
Apropos of nothing, there are a number of National Weather Service sites that no longer have the attention to detail they had before. So their forecasts are, in some cities, are not as accurate as they used to be. But
they're probably using AI. I saw a scientist that I follow on social media saying that the things that the updates that she has gotten recently from the CDC about infectious disease have been because she said she's been using those resources for years. It's part of her job, right? So she's very familiar with the tone and the language that they use, the scientists at the CDC,
right,
when they post these updates. And she said the most recent ones have been just off, and I can tell that it's not the people that have been writing these updates for years. And she said, I think they're using AI to write these.
I bet she's right.
CDC updates.
Because Elon Musk wants to run the entire government through AI. That's what they're doing right now. They're trying to put AI in all these federal agencies' computers. But what the point I wanted to make about these 11.4 billion cuts, this is going to literally hamstring all public health efforts in this country, and it leaves us wide open and helpless if we have another outbreak of COVID or if we have human-to-human transmission of bird flu. We're literally
Measles
helpless.
is spreading.
Measles all
Tuberculosis
over.
is spreading. Like, do we live in medieval times?
Yeah, I've recently.
We might as well.
I got a measles shot. I got my MMR booster because I was born in 1962. I'm in
Yes.
that. In late May, I will get the second of those shots.
That's that. I should have added that. We're going to talk about some emergency prep here in a minute.
I jumped the
and
gun. Sorry.
no, that's okay. But it's obviously it's relevant here.
Yeah.
People even my age, I did get one MMR shot when I was a kid, but and I'm 41, so I'm not sure what the cutoff is, but people my age,
You're good.
do need to get no, you need to get a booster.
You too? Let's see. 41. What year were you born in?
83.
Yeah, I don't know, but
You
it's probably
need to get a booster.
better
I
safe
got
than
one-
sorry. Better safe.
I got one a few years ago. And they can test you at the doctor. Go in
Oh.
and they can test your blood and see if you still have antibodies, and if you don't, they'll give you a booster.
Oh,
That's what they did for me a few years ago.
very cool.
Because we had a measles outbreak among the Somali community in Minnesota a few years ago because the anti-vaxxers were targeting the Somali community with misinformation because they knew that they would be easy targets.
And Kennedy's
like,
a whole other topic because now
it's-
that's going on all over.
So disgusting.
It is.
And now, did you hear that kids, I can't remember which state, one of the states where the measles is spreading, probably Texas, parents who have been listening to RFK say vitamin A
Oh yeah.
is a good natural treatment for measles, which is absolutely bonkers and not scientifically accurate. So now children's hospitals are treating children with measles for vitamin A poisoning as well,
Right. They're
which is
overdosing
complicating.
on.
Yeah, which is complicating their ability to treat the measles that the kids already have because they're not
It's
vaccinated.
a national thing. We've basically debilitated any professionalism in this country. Everything is being questioned. You know, people who went to med school for like 12 years are being, you don't know my body like I know my body, blah, 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 blah. And they basically, the answer to that is, okay, you may know your car, but when your car needs, you take your car into an auto mechanic, right?
Listen,
Yes.
I am all for advocating for yourself with doctors. I have had doctors that, you know, especially as a woman, and it's even worse for women of color, that don't listen. They tell you, no, it's this, or you're fine when you know you're not. Advocate for yourself, certainly. But when it comes to things like vaccines that have been so well researched, look at the comparison just in deaths of children before vaccines for common diseases like measles and polio and tuberculosis, and after. Like, pull up a graph and look at how the deaths of children drop off once we start vaccinating children for these diseases. Like, it is bonkers to think that you are better off not vaccinating your children. And meanwhile, most of these parents are vaccinated
Yeah.
because they got vaccinated when it wasn't this big conspiracy theory.
I mean, with my
But they're-
my thing is you just don't take you know, as an adult, and I know women get the short end of the stick from the medical community. That is obviously true, but you don't take risk with children. You know, with little children, with babies, toddlers, little children. Why would you risk their lives so you could prove some kind of political point? It's just beyond my comprehension. I'm glad my parents didn't buy into any of this crap.
Well, it wasn't really happening when we
No,
were
it
kids.
wasn't. No,
It,
not in the
it was
60s.
too fresh. Everyone still remembered what it was like for
The only thing
kids
we
to
had-
be in iron lungs
Yeah.
and whatnot.
The only
you
thing
know?
we had when I was born was the whole thalidomide thing. And that was huge. As babies, mothers were given thalidomide and their babies were born limbless. And that was in the early 60s, and I was born in
and
62.
see, this is why I'm saying, I am not saying the medical community is perfect.
No.
Certainly, you know, there have been times where, you know, drugs weren't safe and were given before adequate testing. That's not the case with vaccines.
No.
It's just not. And if you look at the statistics, even people who argue against the COVID vaccine and say, you know, it causes the heart issue. Oh, I'm going to blank on what the specific heart issue is that it causes.
There are certain side effects with cardiovascular health.
Okay, But you are literally way more likely to suffer those side effects from actual COVID than you are from the vaccine.
Absolutely.
This is what those people don't realize.
My heart
or maybe they do.
heart was damaged by COVID. I had it twice.
COVID is much more likely to cause those heart problems. So when people are like, oh, there's this huge surge in young people dying of heart conditions, and that's because of the vaccine. No, that's mostly because of COVID itself.
Yeah.
It attacks your immune system. It attacks your organs. So yeah, are there very tiny percentages of people who have those side effects from the vaccine itself? Yes. Vaccines are not risk-free, but you are at a much higher risk not getting vaccinated. And I'm not talking out of my ass. My sister-in-law is a doctor.
That's right.
I have been over all of this with her ad nauseum, because my children were too young to get vaccinated when the COVID vaccines first started becoming available, because they rolled them out to adults first. And then, they require more stringent testing for young children, of course. And I had plenty of time to talk to her about all of this and make sure, yes, it's the right thing to do, especially because my 7-year-old has a congenital heart defect.
Mm-hmm.
So I was nervous, do I still get him vaccinated? And she said, yes, way lower risk of heart complications with the vaccine than with him not being vaccinated and getting a really severe case of COVID.
Right. Well, why don't we take a break here? We're going to come back and we're going to talk about things that you can do, practical things that everyone can do to prepare for any eventuality. And we will talk about those eventualities when we return. This is Katie and Keith from the Bomb Shelter. All right, back here. This is Katie and Keith from the Bomb Shelter. And if you recognize that theme music that I played, you're old like me. All right. Talk a little bit about what we can do to get ready.
Oh, I was going to say one thing from before the break when we were talking about COVID, the risks of COVID versus the COVID vaccine. And I said I couldn't remember what heart condition it can cause. It's tachycardia, which should be at the forefront of my brain because both of my children have had tachycardia.
Really?
Actually, they've both been diagnosed with it at different times. So
is that a regular heartbeat? Is that what that
Yes.
means? Okay.
yeah, and so my older son, who has the congenital heart defect, that's what the tachycardia was caused by. He has a bicuspid aortic valve. But my younger son was actually got an echo right away as a newborn because my older son has the heart defect. And my younger son doesn't have it, but he did have tachycardia. And they couldn't figure out why because there was no structural defect. And actually, viruses can cause they can because COVID does. But other viruses can also cause tachycardia. And they couldn't figure out, they tested him. They couldn't figure out what was causing it. And then it ended up resolving on its own after a few months, thankfully. And he's been fine since. But yeah, so COVID, it's not just the COVID vaccine that can cause tachycardia, which is what anti-vaxxers are always screaming about. Yes, it can in very few cases, but COVID itself is much more likely to cause it.
I also want to remind people we're going to have a podcast on Tuesday with Jillian Ratliff, so look for that Tuesday afternoon. And we're going to be talking about the entire signal fiasco with a
Signal
cybersecurity
Gate.
expert.
You got to call it Signal Gate.
Signal Gate. Oh, I hate the whole gate thing. It's just, no,
That's what people are calling
I
it.
remember I lived through Watergate. I just hate it. I know they're calling it that. I like the one thing that somebody called it like whiskey something or another. I don't know, but anyway.
I don't know
So
what that means.
we need to build community.
Oh, well, okay. So we had one more news story.
Oh, right.
To kind of segue into this.
Yes. We're good
And
at
Americans, again, our news is not doing the best job keeping us informed. But the AP did report, and AP is a pretty good one, actually, that the European Union started urging citizens to stockpile supplies to last at least 3 days in case of crisis. Which I know some individual countries have been doing that already, but now the whole EU.
Right. Sweden has told its people, I think Finland as well, to prepare for war. Poland as well.
And or pandemic.
And or pandemic. Cyber attacks, climate change, and disease. The whole shooting match of human misery. So, yeah. It's ramping up. It really is.
And, you know, part of preparing is, you know, being ready to shelter in place, COVID style. But part of preparing is also being ready to get the fuck out of Dodge when you need to. So we're going to talk about both of those scenarios and what you should be doing to prepare. And Keith, I remember you just
baby. Get the fuck out.
You just posted something on Threads about this, that you were shopping at Costco and
yeah, I hit Costco every now and then when I feel like my my stash needs some help. And this time I'm looking at my water stash, and now I feel it's still inadequate. I have a lot of cereal. I don't know if you could see it from here. I don't think you can. But yeah, that's.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's pretty much everything, and the water is over there, and what have you.
I was just reorganizing my supplies in the basement and taking stock yesterday. But you were saying when you were shopping, you were wondering if anyone else there was shopping for the same reasons.
Yeah, I just was wondering if people were just basically doing the Costco thing because you can get a lot in bulk for a really low price, or if there were people like me who were thinking about, I need to prepare. I need to stock up. I need to put food away, put water away, and what have you. And
see, and I do both because my husband and kids are bottomless pits. So, I mean, like literally, if we didn't shop at Costco, we would spend so much more on food.
I've got a stand-up freezer which is filled to the brim right now. I'm probably going to still get more water, but I'm feeling pretty good about what I've got now. But my big thing is, folks, canned vegetables, canned fruit, cereals, water, and medical supplies. Get your over-the-counter meds.
So we're going to go into this in depth, though.
Yep.
Because I have a whole checklist for...
We do. I just had to get my little thing in there.
Yep. I know that when people hear like prepare for an emergency, stockpile for 3 days, like I don't know about other people, but that's completely overwhelming to me. Like, what does that look like? Mm-hmm. So being the type A neurodivergent person, quote unquote alarmist that I am, I have been sort of taking what I've seen from lots of different places about how to prepare for these different eventualities, because it also feels like we're kind of stuck in like 3 different converging timelines right now, and compiling it all into a checklist to keep it straight and help me from feeling overwhelmed. And so I thought that would be a good thing to share with our audience, for other people who feel like, okay, but what do I actually do to prepare? So the first thing now, okay, I want to give credit to the sources where I've pulled this information from. So the beginning of this checklist started from a Threads post by Noble Nova 777. But like I said, I've added to it as I've come across more stuff. So this is more in depth than that original one, but
Wow.
so I kind of broke it down into categories. So I wanted to talk first about physical preparations, which is what we were just discussing with food and water and prescriptions. You know, the EU is telling people 3 days minimum, but we all know that if there's another pandemic, we're going to need more than 3 days worth of supplies.
Right.
Likewise, if, you know, World War III breaks out or a civil war in the US, which I feel like those scenarios are maybe equally likely at this point.
First thing, buy a home with a bomb shelter.
Yeah, go ahead
But
and
if
do
you
that.
don't have a bomb shelter,
Step one.
mm-hmm.
So 90 days worth is going to be a better baseline for how much food and prescriptions as well. If you can get 3 months worth of all of your like prescriptions at a time and just like stash those away. I know that's hard to do for certain prescriptions, like, you know, for
Controlled
ADHD or whatever.
substances. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you can do that for especially like birth control,
There you
ladies,
go.
very plan B, not a bad idea to stock up on that. Which actually you can get over the counter, but you do have to get it from a pharmacy. Or I guess it would be behind the counter. It's not over the counter, but you don't need a prescription.
Right.
So I don't know what the term for that is, but and so I included some other resources here, like a 30-day stocking technique for like what kinds of food to get and how much, which I thought was really helpful. She breaks it down into like grains and protein and what kind of produce keeps for a long time. So I have a link to that here. I also have a link to a resource about how to stretch what you have. You know, we probably have pantries full of stuff that we have had for years, and how would we, you know, stretch that if it came to it? And then I also have a link to growing your own. And you don't even have to buy seeds for a lot of things, which I feel like Americans have been so spoiled in the past that we don't know, like you can grow tomatoes from tomatoes. Like literally you can take the seeds out of the grocery store tomato and plant it, and it grows pretty easily in, you know, warm enough temperature. Same thing with potatoes. You can like just, you know, when a potato starts to sprout and get all gnarly,
Put it in the
you
ground.
know, like the eyes. Yeah, that's the potato start trying to grow more potatoes. So stick it in the ground. And then as far as water, the guideline from ironically from the US government for like emergency prep from years past is 1 gallon per day per person for several days for both drinking and sanitation, extra for pets, obviously. You know, that would be an extreme scenario if you didn't have water access, but you know, natural
Could
disasters.
happen. Water filters are good too.
Yeah,
good
but
water
if the
filter.
water's not
If the water's bad, I mean,
running,
you know,
yeah. Or, you know, if you live somewhere like Flint, Michigan, and you just literally can't drink
Can't
your
drink the
water,
water.
still. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's see. So
go ahead.
cash,
Cash.
stash cash.
Yep.
I actually exchanged some cash for Canadian currency before the election, because one of my fears is that they are going to crash the economy, which obviously they're already doing that, but you know, like seriously,
What's that?
completely devalue.
What's that
US
app
dollar.
you were using to do that? Let's
This
mention
was
that
not
again.
an app.
Oh,
This
was-
was just, I did cash at a bank.
Oh, all right.
You can just exchange cash for foreign currency at a bank.
Mhm.
You do need to, it like takes a few days though.
Mm-hmm.
So like call ahead or go to the
Right.
bank. You got to give them your money, obviously. And then it takes a few days for them to get the currency then, and then you can go pick it up. But what you're talking about is going to come later because that's
Okay.
under,
Got it.
this is physical cash. That's under finances. If you don't have a high limit credit card, good idea to have one just in case. A a generator, which you probably have one. I feel like you're.
No, I'm thinking, I don't. I'm thinking of buying a
Oh.
whole house generator, a Generac.
Okay.
Those are, from my house, it'll be about $8,000.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, that's like a big investment, which my husband used to talk about getting a generator, and that's what I thought of. And I was like, okay, that's extreme. But you can buy much smaller ones too that are useful just to like, you know, plug your phone in and charge it, or, you know, another device. And then also like plug your fridge and freezer in for a little while to keep things cold, and then unplug it again. So it's not going to, you know, and run like a space heater. It's not going to power your whole house, but in an emergency, if you don't have electricity, it can still be really useful. And that's the kind we just got. We got a solar powered one.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking of getting one of those, too.
Yeah. And that, I mean, it was, I think it was like $1,500. So, you know, still not cheap, but Costco carries all different types. So we got a solar powered one because we have solar panels. And so that made the most sense for us.
Definitely.
But then they have gas powered ones too, if that makes more sense for you. So you can, and I'll link to that on our Substack. You can check that out.
Yeah, I like this one. Maps.
Local driving maps.
Oh my God! Yeah, I was a map
yeah.
freak when I was a kid, but I got rid of all my maps. I got to get
right.
them back again. I know. I feel stupid.
That's the thing.
Get my old Rand McNally Road Atlas.
How are we supposed to know we were going to be in this position? We've been so encouraged by society to just do everything digitally and online, which is obviously more convenient, but like, they can track you then. Like, I'm serious, turn off your location.
No, I know you're right. But
settings on
I'm
your
not
phone,
laughing
too.
at you. Believe me, I'm not.
That's what Jillian said. She said
Yeah.
she has GPS in her car, so they could, and she is worried they could track her that way. So it's more secure, but also if the internet goes down, you know.
I was just remembering how I used to drive with maps.
Oh,
It was
such a pain in the
Oh
ass.
my God! You know, like you're driving and you're looking and you're holding it up, and it's like,
Oh my God.
where am I? You know,
Well,
no, pull over.
And I have special trauma with this because whatever my special recipe of neurodivergence is, I have no sense of direction.
Okay.
And I'm terrible at remembering how to get places unless I've been there like a million times. And so I used to, when I first got my license as a teenager, before smartphones, I would go on MapQuest, right? So, you know, dating ourselves here, but
A little.
I would print out the directions for how to get where I was going, but then inevitably I would end up getting lost still. And I would call my mom, freaking out because I deviated from the directions. Now what?
Oh, you're screwed.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Funny enough, that's what I've been doing actually is on Google Maps, not MapQuest, because I tried MapQuest and it was not as intuitive.
Right.
But I've been going in there and printing directions to places that we might need to go in an emergency so that we have paper maps. So yeah, pepper spray, steel toe boots.
Shit
There have been some
kickers.
great. Yep, exactly. Get them where it hurts. There have been some great self-defense videos, speaking of that, on social media. And I can link to some of them on the Substack newsletter, but just showing like, obviously women are physically smaller usually than men and not as strong. Although, hey, if you don't lift weights, ladies, now's a great time to start.
Absolutely.
But you know,
And I need to get on the schneid with that myself.
yeah, it's a good idea for everyone. But
Right.
you know, how do you defend yourself strategically when you're smaller and not as strong as the attacker? Dead weight is one that I think when we panic, we a lot of times don't. I'm fighting and giving all my energy up instead of dead weight is using the least amount of energy and making it the hardest for them. And then, I mean, even with a baseball bat too, like check weapon laws in your state though, because at least in Minnesota, if you don't have a glove along with your bat, like if it's in the trunk of your car or something, it can be considered a weapon.
Really? That's why I like living in
Depending on-
Pennsylvania. Pretty much in Pennsylvania, anything goes.
Oh, lucky you.
Lucky me.
Brass knuckles?
You know what? That might not go. I don't know.
That's
I don't know
not
if
legal
brass
here.
knuckles are legal in any state in the United States. I'm not really sure.
I know they're not
But
here.
if you use brass knuckles, you better damn well know how to throw a punch. That's all I'm going to say.
Why?
Because you'll hurt yourself if you don't.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. See, I've done kickboxing for years, so I can.
You're
I
lethal.
can kick. I can punch.
You're lethal.
I don't know about lethal, but well, I could be in a crisis.
You got to go from there to something like jiu-jitsu.
Yes, that's like using the opponent's body weight against
Yeah,
them,
it's
right?
like definitely ground grappling. The
Yeah.
whole I did that
Yes.
for a while too.
If I had time, I would love to.
Yeah,
to study
you have
martial
3
arts
kids,
like that.
so
2 kids.
2 kids. Sorry.
Are you counting my husband? No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
Another one that I wanted to talk about, and I think this is something that white people in the U.S. tend to suck at because of the whole rugged individualism, pull yourself up by the bootstraps propaganda bullshit that we're fed. Builds community for mutual aid. And I can give some tips on how to do this, but the English teacher in me wanted to quote the Grapes of Wrath with regard to this, why this is so important too. Because
Go for it.
For people who aren't familiar, John Steinbeck, Grapes of Wrath, that's about the Great Depression and union workers who are being exploited, organizing, creating and joining unions, rising up against the exploiters. So this is from chapter 14 of Grapes of Wrath. One man, one family, driven from the land, this rusty car creaking along the highway to the west. I lost my land, a single tractor took my land. I am alone and I am bewildered. And in the night, one family camps in a ditch and another family pulls in and the tents come out. The 2 men squat on their hams and the women and children listen. Here is the node, you who hate change and fear revolution. Keep these 2 squatting men apart, make them hate, fear, suspect each other. Here is the enlage of the thing you fear. This is the zygote. For here, I lost my land is changed. A cell is split, and from its splitting grows the thing you hate. We lost our land. The danger is here, for 2 men are not as lonely and perplexed as one. And from this first we, there grows a still more dangerous thing. I have a little food, plus I have none. If from this problem the sum is we have a little food, the thing is on its way. The movement has direction. Only a little multiplication now, and this land, this tractor, are ours. The 2 men squatting in a ditch, the little fire, the side meat stewing in a single pot, the silent, stone-eyed women, behind the children listening with their souls to words their minds do not understand. The night draws down. The baby has a cold. Here, take this blanket. It's wool. It was my mother's blanket. Take it for the baby. This is the thing to bomb. This is the beginning, from I to we.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me want to cry.
Pretty powerful. And reading that will get you on a list. Isn't that sad?
Yeah, because they know this. This has always been their strategy. Divide us.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Because if we're united, we outnumber them.
Yeah.
We can shut everything down.
As hard as it is for people to do, really try to talk to your neighbors. Start finding out what, without being too, as we say in Pittsburgh, nebby.
What does that mean?
That means nosy.
Oh.
I don't mean to be nebby.
Well, actually, I have this video that this guy posted giving a suggestion of how to do this if you don't know your neighbors.
Right.
And to not be like creepy about it.
True.
And I think this is especially for people that live in big cities because I live in a suburb. I know my neighbors. My kids play with the other kids in the neighborhood. But when I lived in New York City, I didn't know my fucking neighbors in the apartment building. So here, let me share my screen and play this.
If you're in control right now, is to go up to your neighbor, upstairs, downstairs, to the side of you, whatever, and don't scroll. Just listen to the rest of the video. It's not that long. All right. Go to your neighbor and say, hey, did you hear about this tariffs? That's fucking crazy. Dude, I'm really worried about groceries getting more expensive. I'm fixing to make some kind of lasagna or some kind of food that you can make a lot of on whatever day that you think you could do that. If I make some, would you have some? That's it. Just one time. Because a lot of you will get no's. And a lot of people will say no to you. If they especially don't know you well. But some people will say yes. And if they say yes, it gives you the opportunity to get to know who it is that lives around you. And it lets you be seen, even if you get those no's, it lets you be seen at least as somebody who, when stuff was starting to get hard, they were clearly trying to be helpful. And they were trying to bring people together rather than just continue the status quo of everybody freaking out in their own house, you know? The other thing is that for the people who you get yeses from, that is so powerful, man, because it's so directly antagonistic to what the hyper wealthy want us to do. Because what they want us to do is to be individual consumers, right? So that way that we have to maximize our money, so that way that we can maximize our spending. And then they control the rates of spending. But if we're sharing shit, food, Wi-Fi passwords, like showers if we need to, not like together, but you know, like someone use your shower, whatever, like anything like that, time, skills, helping someone sew something, whatever, anything that lets us consume less by sharing more of what we already have. Very, very powerful, very, very powerful, directly anti-capitalist, directly antagonistic to people like Elon Musk. It's just, above all, you know, it also will let you feel less alone, and it will also let you know who around you is able to weather the coming hardships better than you and who's not. You know, and the more people you do this with, I think the less gut-wrenchingly terrified you will feel about what is to come.
Especially us neurodivergent people.
Mm-hmm. So that was originally from TikTok, the real corn pop. Just to give credit. And yeah, I mean, it's going to look a little different depending on where you live and what your situation is. But, you know, in my neighborhood, it's like I already know most of my neighbors. And if I needed to go ask for eggs or, you know, to borrow some propane for the grill or whatever, I would not be worried about, I wouldn't be scared to do that. And I think a lot of people would. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think a lot of people in our neighborhood know they could come to us. Or even like my next door neighbor has watched my kids when I was having an allergic reaction and had to go to the to urgent care because my husband was out of town. Mm-hmm. So yeah, get to know people. That's the last thing they want you to do. And listen to Black people about this because they are so much better at this. They already have the community. That's why they're not freaking out as much as white people are right now. Mm-hmm. And they have so many good suggestions for, and so someone that I follow on Threads, Patricia Deanna, and I'll again post a link to this on Substack, did a thread recently called "They Don't Fear What You See, They Fear What You Build." And so her point is, it's not about you knowing everything. It's about you knowing lots of people who know lots of different things.
May I mention here, my neighbor who is Black has constructed in their backyard a gigantic chicken coop. So guess who gets eggs?
Yep.
Cheap.
Yep.
Yeah, she is ready for just about anything. Her and her kids work very much well together, and they've got this giant chicken coop. They also do healthy mixed beverages with vegetables in them. Really great. I mean, we get
I miss those eggs. There's nothing better than fresh eggs from a real...
Yeah, brown eggs. Really nice ones.
That's a real organic chicken coop. I used to, when I taught in a farming community turned exurb, I had a student for 4 years who would bring eggs to school and sell them to the teachers, and they were the best.
Yeah.
I got a dozen every couple weeks from her. I miss it.
Yep. So we got that. Yeah. Your neighbors may be very resourceful, you know, mutual community.
Well, And look into what like community classes and stuff that's already set up. A lot of people have never looked into like what kind of classes you can take at the community center or the local library. And then I know that a lot of people now are putting together more timely classes about like basics on how to sew, or, you know, gardening classes so you can grow your own victory against the U.S. government garden.
You are so on a list.
This is
We are also on a list.
this is concerning. Okay, so back to the original physical preparations though. So another thing I have on here is pack go bags. And I have a link to a separate document because this original document is more for kind of shelter in place. But for go bags, this is again customized from another source, which was Build-A-Kit on ready.gov, which is still there for now. You know, so it's got just basics about like, yes, you should stock food and also have a manual can opener so you can open your cans of food. And, you know,
I hated
duct tape
those things when I was a kid.
You what?
Manual can openers. Oh my God. Grind.
Make sure it's a good one because
Yeah,
the
get a-
rusty old ones.
Exactly.
Although that could be your workout for
That could
getting
be a workout
stronger.
for the hands.
Yeah. So take a look at that. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because another important thing I wanted to talk about is what kinds of important documents you should have hard printed copies of and stored safely. We have I mentioned our safe a minute ago, and it's fire and waterproof safe. So we keep our important documents in there. So ID, like if you have passports, birth certificates, copies of your driver's license, social security cards, like have that all in one place. Medical and dental records, like I know we have that all online now. Print that stuff out and have it with you in case you have to take off to another country and aren't able to access that stuff. Diplomas, school transcripts, copies of professional licenses. We were just talking about this before we started recording, pet vaccination records. Make sure your pets are up to date on their rabies shots, first of all, because a lot of countries won't let you in if you don't have proof of that. I just got my cats their rabies shots, and they gave me the certificate, and there was a line for the vet to sign it, and they said the vet doesn't really need to sign it unless you're planning on like moving to another country. And I was like, please have the vet sign it just in case. Thank you. So that's something to
Things
consider.
are always better signed than unsigned. Always.
Just do it. Property deeds, proof of insurance, and your actual policy printed out. Your will, especially if you have children, dependents, and if you don't have one, you should go ahead and make one. And then this goes along with a will, and this was from an estate lawyer on social media, actually. And I have it linked here so you can see his original post, but he calls it the "Sorry I'm Dead" letter. And it's actually different from a will because it's information for your family so they can log into your financial accounts, pay bills, make insurance claims. Accounts don't get frozen because they can't access them. He said he sees so many families where someone dies unexpectedly and the remaining family members are like, they paid all the bills. They did all the finances. I don't know how to get into anything.
Right.
So, and honestly, like my husband does a lot of that. And just because he's like better at it, that's just more kind of in his wheelhouse. And like, I need to make sure I have all those passwords just in case.
Yeah. We'll have this on the Substack for all of you folks to copy.
Yep.
Print.
Links to all of it. And I made this as a Google Doc that you can make a copy of, and you can go ahead and like check things off as you do them. Because for me, that's like very reassuring, mental health wise
Yeah,
too.
this
like,
is great. This is
Yeah.
great. Just check off boxes and everything.
Yeah. Financial statements that you should have, printouts of your retirement accounts. Make sure you can access those and know how much is in them. Go to the Social Security website, print out Social Security statements, benefit verification letter, earnings record, and credit reports. And we talked to Jillian Ratliff, the cybersecurity expert, a few weeks ago about she recommends that you freeze your credit with all 3 bureaus right now, just because we don't know what's going on. But you can also print your credit report from each bureau on the websites. And I can link to those in Substack too. So that's the physical prep. And then you were starting to mention finances. And so I did that kind of as a separate little section here.
Right.
And I actually found a great post by, and that she's on Substack. She does financial newsletters. Danielle Nava, who is a CFP progressive certified financial planner, helping fellow progressive, millennial, creative, and breadwinning women navigate the world of wealth the lazy and smart way, which, like,
Right
I
on.
have to admit, this is something that I need to find time to educate myself on better. I think that's such an awesome resource, because women are told, like, don't worry about it, let your husband take care of it. I'm guilty. And it's not because I buy into, like, that's a man's place bullshit. It's really just because money freaks me out, but I need to get over it and empower myself about that. So she had a post recently called "What do we do with our money while we're preparing for the potential fall of democracy?" And I was like, ooh,
I should have some bright, bubbly music to go along with that title.
Right?
Yeah.
So she's got some really great information. And I'm not going to go through all of it, but I will link to it. It's actually linked in this document, and I'll link to it on Substack. But a couple of things she recommends: have a 6 to 9 month liquid emergency fund, which is like, oh, okay, I'll just pull tens of thousands of dollars out of my savings account,
Right.
and, whatever. She talks about, that doesn't mean stop, like, deposit, investing in your 401k. She's like, don't panic and do something, or, like, pulling money out of your 401k and getting a huge penalty just so that you can have enough liquid assets. Like, don't necessarily panic. And so I thought that was good that she went into that but, like, try to start building some emergency funds as you can, putting away maybe even just a few $100s a month or whatever.
Every little bit helps.
Yeah. And I would say, rather than, doing something drastic with regards to, like, retirement accounts, like, see where you can, like, cancel maybe, like, a subscription for a TV service you don't use very much, or, like, look for ways to just, like, downgrade a little bit in terms of everyday life. My husband works from home, and so we decided we didn't need 2 cars. So we actually sold both of our cars recently and bought an older Chevy Tahoe, because those are
Interesting.
really just, like, reliable.
Good move.
It's a gas guzzler, but it's big and we can fit a lot of stuff in it, and we have 2 kids, and so
No, it's perfect for your family.
yeah, it made more sense. And so we're going to save a lot of money that way and be able to put more money into savings. So, and then another one that we had mentioned was diversifying your funds. So opening a foreign bank account using an international financial service is something to consider too. And so you had asked me, what was that app? It's called Wise, WISE. And there are other ones. This is one that Forbes has actually, written about and said this is a good option. Now, Jillian mentioned that she doesn't think that they're insured by the FDIC is one consideration. Right. So it doesn't mean, like, take all your liquid assets and put it into this. It means diversify, have a little here, a little there, so that if something goes down, you're not totally screwed.
Okay.
If that makes sense. And then, yeah, in that post that I mentioned by that financial planner, she also addresses, like, what to do about high interest debt. Should you invest in gold? She addresses investing in / cashing out on retirement accounts. So you can read that if you want more in-depth analysis. Okay. Digital protections is another category on here, but we went through all of that with Jillian on the recent podcast episode. So I'm not going to go through all of that. But you can take a look, listen to that podcast episode about cybersecurity.
There's something I'm
And then-
waiting for you to get to. When you get to it, I'll let you know.
Oh, okay.
That's going to be good.
So other planning, if you have time, make research plans and outline in detail, like what would it look like if you stayed put? What would a planned exit look like if you decided to leave the country? I have here a link to a Forbes article, Want to Leave the U.S., Countries Welcoming Americans with Open Arms.
A list that's getting
that out.
smaller every day.
Smaller.
But not totally out of it.
Well, I think it's more like the people who want to come here. Yeah. That list is getting smaller.
All right, cross Canada off your list.
Well,
yeah.
Unless, they have special skills visas for, teachers and doctors and
big time.
Nurses and stuff. And then, emergency exit plans. Like, what if you had to leave next week? Mm-hmm. What would that look like? Maps, go bags.
I have a bug out plan emerging now. We're staying right here. This is Fort Apache, the Bronx, as far as I'm concerned, this house. But the only way I leave is if there's an imminent nuclear thing. Then a place in north central Pennsylvania with a campground, and hopefully we have a home to go back to. But think about it.
Because you feel like you're too close to the city.
Oh, wait, yeah, I'm like 2 miles from U.S. Steel's plant, and that's going to definitely get hit.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, it depends on where you live and
I smell them every day.
What you're close to, because I'm close to Canada.
Right.
A lot of people are going to be closer to Mexico. I know Mexico is actually one of the places that it's pretty easy to buy your way into. Actually, so.
Yeah. So is a
Canada,
number of Southwest Asian countries like the Philippines, Malaysia. Mm-hmm. Of course, everybody's been going to
actually.
Costa Rica. Let's see how Belize is a big one. It has a big American expat community. A lot of people have been going to Spain and Portugal. Spain is tightening up their immigration. So Portugal's still there.
Italy is one too.
Italy is great. Yeah. Yep. So you can find this all out.
Yeah, and if that's on your radar, if that's something you want to consider, and you don't have a current passport, and you start the documentation process now, because with more people starting to think about leaving, and with the federal government getting smaller and less efficient every day, it's going to take longer and longer to get this stuff done. So passports, TSA pre-check, which you have to actually physically go in person to the airport for that. If you aren't aware, make an appointment ahead of time. Looking into visas for other countries, maybe researching how to transfer skills and certifications, medical and health requirements for certain destinations, like if you have to have certain vaccinations. Make sure you've talked to extended family about, emergency meetup locations. I have a plan with my siblings. We all are in the process of making sure we have shortwave radios and that we know what frequency to be on in case there's a problem with cell phones. What did you just go get? I got
my shortwave radio.
Oh, nice.
You want to share a screen? You want to share a screen with this one? Because I recommend this radio to everyone. It's black and gold, just like the Steelers. It's called a Voyager.
That's important.
And the thing that makes this so good is that you have an AM, FM, 2 shortwave bands, and you have every single weather band there is out there. It also can run on batteries. It can run on AC current, it can run on solar current.
What's the brand?
It's called Voyager.
Okay.
And
do you remember how much it costs?
Katos. I'm sorry. It's a Kaito, Kaito Voyager. It's about $40. And one more thing. If all else fails, there's a crank. You could crank this radio. Hear it?
Yeah.
And if you crank it for 2 minutes, it'll give you half an hour of power for the radio.
That's awesome.
And it's tough. It's virtually indestructible. I recommend it highly.
Okay, I'm going to put that in here. Katos.
Yep.
K-A-I-T-O-S.
Voyager. Right.
Voyager.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're sold on Amazon and a lot of other places that are more ethical. But they're you can tell by the distinctive black and gold.
Okay. Black and gold. I will find a link to that as well. So yeah, a few more tips in terms of like establishing a plausible cover for travel to make border crossings easier, especially like crossing into Canada is going to get harder and harder, I'm sure. So you could, have medical records to justify medical travel for an emergency health issue.
I
if
have
you
a
can
girlfriend in Winnipeg.
I'm not sure they would accept that.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah.
Business or remote work. You might need a work visa, extended family visit. If you have family in another country, make a plan with them ahead of time. And then the last thing is this is so dark. Determine triggers and red line events. Like it sounds like you already have. You know what would be the thing that would make you say, we're out of here. Lots of great tips from people who know what they're talking about here. Early warning signs, supply chain disruptions. We're already seeing that with the tariffs, obviously. Yep. So check. Rising food and fuel costs.
Check.
Not fuel so much, I don't think, but food, obviously. Check. Job market instability. Check.
Especially if you're a federal government. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Insurance policy changes. Our policy hasn't changed, but our actual insurance just went up like $2,000 out of nowhere.
What, your home insurance?
Well, we have our home and car bundled.
Oh, wow. $2,000 for the bundle.
Yeah. And it's like, what the hell? We live in Minnesota. We don't have natural disasters. Like, where the hell did that come from?
You aren't in California unless you're paying for California. What's your company?
Well, that's what I'm thinking is we are. Which, great. I'll help out Californians, but like...
Ours went up like $50.
We don't I don't know what the hell.
I don't know. That's crazy. All right. Bank policy changes.
Bank policy changes. I haven't seen that yet.
I haven't seen that.
Local policy shifts. This is one benefit to being in the US, I think, is that we are so spread out that it's going to make it so much harder for them to actually enforce what they're trying to do, especially in blue states, when local governments are not willing to cooperate.
Changes in police presence.
Yeah. Keep in mind that police can also refer to federal. That can be ICE, U.S. Marshals, National Guard.
Also beware if your local militia start hanging out with the cops. That's a big red flag.
Yeah. Well, we've already seen brown shirts.
Yep.
What was it? Idaho, where the brown shirts took that woman out of the town hall.
Right.
And then action signals, i.e. go time, media control and censorship. I think we're seeing some of that, but it's obviously not total crackdown. Internet communication disruptions. This is why we're talking about having a shortwave radio and paper maps. Rapid currency devaluation, which is why we're talking about, diversifying your financial situation and strengthening your position. Martial law / emergency declarations. No one's officially declared martial law. I'm sure he's itching to do it, but like we said, we effectively are living under martial law because they're ignoring laws. Kidnappings.
Seeing that.
Check. Travel restrictions. So some of these are check. Customs and border procedure changes. Did you see that someone, I don't remember where they were coming from, a U.S. citizen or a legal resident at least, was not only detained and had their phone gone through, he was strip searched and made to take a cold shower.
This is a U.S. citizen? No, I hadn't heard about this.
Well, he was a legal resident for sure. I'm not sure about U.S. citizen. Yeah. They wouldn't give him his prescriptions, I don't think. And then he collapsed and had to go to the hospital.
Yeah. Border guards
at the airport
are getting really bitchy right now.
This was at the airport.
Yeah, at the airport. That's,
passport revocations, flight bans for U.S. citizens or visa holders.
We
haven't
yet
seen that yet. U.S. embassies issuing travel warnings to foreign nationals. That's already happening. Lethal force being used on protesters.
Cross your fingers.
Not yet.
Not yet.
And then anytime your personal risk level changes. So if you get a visit from police, ICE, you're getting threats, financial restrictions, targeted online suppression.
Wow. And we
then
know that most people don't have the resources just to leave the country or even go from state to state. But these are just things to look at to increase your level of preparedness if you see them.
And I linked a resource here at the bottom on this checklist, Handbook for the Recently Resisting, which is from a fake adult mom account on IG. And
she's good.
Do you follow her?
Yeah.
She's got like all these different chapters posted. This is just a link to her very first chapter.
Fake
so she's
adult
a good
mom,
too.
one word.
Yeah. And she's on IG.
And she's on Threads too, yes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Here's the big one. This is the big ask coming. The big ask of women.
Oh, yes. Okay. So women, divorce your Republican husband now while you can still do it.
Right.
I'm not joking.
Before
I have
we get
a friend,
into Gilead.
I have a friend in South Carolina who's in this position, and I wish she would hurry up. It makes me nervous. Stock up on the pill, Plan B, consider getting an IUD, depending on your situation, obviously. Get or renew a passport, not just for travel. They proposed a bill that would take away the right to vote if your legal last name does not match your birth certificate or passport. Meaning, if you are a married woman who changed your last name from your maiden name and you don't have a passport with that legal last name, you would not be allowed to vote.
That's 70 million of you.
Match your birth certificate. That is, I mean, the law hasn't passed, but why wouldn't it pass?
Right.
This is bonkers.
Plan for the worst, folks.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't happen, you're still prepared.
And then we talked about self-defense and then the finances thing. And then the last thing is to men. Because I think there are a lot of men who still think that people are overreacting and it's not that bad. And when a woman says leave, you leave.
They have that sixth sense.
And we also just are more in tune with what's happening because we've had to be our whole lives.
Absolutely.
We're taught to be on high alert because men aren't safe. And instead of making men be safe, they make us just live our lives on high alert. So we have a much better sense, I think, of when things are.
I agree with that. If my wife said time to bug out, I wouldn't even question that.
Don't question it.
Don't question it.
Don't tell her to calm down. Don't tell her she's overreacting. And the truth is, a lot of Jewish families were able to escape concentration camps during the Holocaust because the women had their finger on the pulse of what was happening. They were the ones talking to their neighbors, and they knew. They didn't have internet. They were hearing, this family got taken or this family disappeared, this whatever. And so they're the ones who told their husbands it's time to go. And the husbands who listened made it out. The families made it out. The ones who didn't, a lot of them didn't.
Right. The optimists went to the camps, is what they said.
Exactly.
Yep.
So.
Do you want me to play that video or?
Well, I think we are. I'll link to it in the Substack.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think we're kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've got some more resources.
It's a long episode again, but it all feels like really important information. So.
Yeah, we just want you folks to be ready for anything, and we don't. It may sound like we're trying to frighten people. We don't want to frighten you. We want you to be prepared for anything. I mean, just look at what's happening already. Okay? People like me would have never in a million years thought it would have happened so fast between Inauguration Day and now, what we're dealing with. So it's basically falls to you and your family to take care of yourself.
And your community, whatever community you build.
Yeah, whatever community you build, right.
And what was I going to say? I just blinked out.
You had a senior moment? Oh, no, those are for me, not you.
I have, yeah.
Well, you've got some resources listed here,
mushed.
too, that you'll be posting on Substack. So some very good places for people to read. And it's a lot of reading. It's a lot of internet watching. But, you'll feel a whole lot more secure once you do it. So.
Yeah.
All right. I guess.
Oh, and
one
I'm
more
going to
thing.
link to another doc with reliable news and information, good accounts to follow on social media, since we know that mainstream media is not doing the best job keeping us informed. So
Right.
that's what I was going to say is being well informed. I know it's scary to confront this stuff and it's easier to stick your head in the sand, but you can't make good informed decisions that way.
Right. All
That's
right.
all.
Coming up on Tuesday, we're going to have Jillian Ratliff, and we're going to be talking about the signal gate. I guess we can call it that. I hate those gate things.
You guess.
I lived through Watergate and all the other gates, and it's like
I mean, this is arguably a bigger deal than Watergate.
It is. It could very well be. Very well be. And so she'll be coming up on Tuesday. And until then, we will let you go and prepare. Do the best that you can. This is Katie and Keith from the bomb shelter.
We'll see you out there.
All right. Take it easy and be safe.